All right, here we go. Game one of the 21 season. Because we didn't start till January, there's not going to be a 2020-21. It's just going to be 2021. Weird, right? It's going to be a season unlike any other, in a way. Just like last season was. Well, yeah, I guess, because it started off a normal season, delayed for a number of months, and then finished in a bubble with way more teams than in the playoffs than have ever been before. So now this season, we're already starting on a only 56 game season with these altered divisions, and the league's going to have to roll with changes and emergencies as they come along. So a couple things I don't like: advertising on the helmets now. You know, the Habs last night had the Bell logo. The Leafs had a Scotiabank logo on their helmets. Apparently now the divisions, they've realigned the divisions. So as you may know, the Leafs are playing in the Canadian division now. So they're all the Canadian teams, so they don't have to cross the U.S. border, are all playing in a division. They've realigned all the other ones. And apparently now the divisions are all sponsored, I guess. So it's like the Scotia North division or whatever, and then there's a Honda division. And it's like, oh my God, is this the way it's going? Like, I understand the league needs more money because of COVID has, cut into revenues and changed the whole structure of everything. But I hope this is just a temporary thing until things return to normal, and then they can drop it. Because, you ever watch international hockey across the pond in the clubs over there that have basically advertising stuck on every little nook and cranny on their jersey and helmets and stuff that isn't covered by numbers or names or whatever, and it looks ridiculous. It looks so cheap and gaudy, and I hate it. And if the NHL is going that way, I'm not impressed. Now, like I said, the league's going to have to roll with the punches. We've already got the Dallas Stars with a bit of a COVID thing going on, so their first game has been delayed and stuff. But the NHL is, of all the leagues, the NHL is going to be the one that is most responsible and takes the appropriate precautions in any circumstance. Because, I mean, you look at MLB and the NFL, both in particular, they're still letting stands in the stadiums when they were playing games, right? And they're all crammed together. They're not wearing masks, right? A lot of them. And then you wonder why there's all these COVID outbreaks in these fucking leagues, right? And then the basketball players are complaining that now they can't do on-court socialization with the opposing team members after the games. Like, oh, it must be hard to be paid millions of dollars and then be told that, for just the time being, you can't go talk to your buddy on the other team after the game and hug and high five and breathe on each other, right? Like, I know it sucks, but just do it until it's over. Like, for fuck's sake. And, it just drives me crazy, But the NHL, like I said, they've done the best job of all four of the major sports leagues of keeping things tight and locking things down. Now, they're not playing in a bubble this time, so COVID is going to creep in here and there, but I have no doubt their numbers are going to be way less than all the other leagues. So, that being said, let's get to the game. There was no preseason. All they had was a blue and white game. The Leafs played the Leafs, and that's all the other teams seem to do the same thing. So they're really coming into this first game of the season on not the usual kind of footing. They're nowhere near game shape. All they've been doing is practicing. You can't get that real feel for the game, the physicality of it, the speed of it, until you're actually in these games. So I was prepared for a bit of a gong show in this first game of the season. And of course, they played Montreal in the first game of the season, right? Which I would have it no other way. The Leafs, I'm not going to lie, they disappointed me in the early going. They looked slow. They looked disjointed. Passes weren't connecting, which again I was prepared for because of the circumstance. But Montreal, on the other hand, looked a lot better in terms of having things together. And I think what bothered me most is that, I understand if your timing's off, your passes aren't connecting and stuff like that, but the Leafs weren't skating. They didn't have that kind of sense of urgency that I was expecting them to have. A big home opener, first game of the season against your biggest traditional rival, and I just thought that they'd be out there flying around, and they really kind of lacked that speed and that sense of urgency, and so that's what really kind of had me down in the first bit. And despite that, they went into the second only down 2-1, and things still looked okay. The scoring in the first period all happened in the second half. The Leafs got into penalty trouble early on, and Montreal capitalized on a power play just past the halfway point. It was kind of a bad luck play. The puck hit the post and then caromed out, went right to a guy. It was an impossible angle, but he, of course, somehow hit it right. So they were down 1-0 there. They struck back not long after. The Leafs were just throwing it around the zone. It came back to Nylander at the point, who was the only guy on the blue line, and then he just wired a hard one through a bunch of traffic and past Price to tie it up at 1. But then a late period killer kind of struck when Josh Anderson scored with like half a minute left on a nice little passing play by the Habs. And so the Leafs, like I said, went to the room down 2-1. Early in the period, about 7 minutes in maybe, in penalty trouble again, and on this penalty sequence, I think the Leafs gave up 2 breakaways shorthanded, and on the second time around, Tatar slipped one through Freddie's 5-hole, and the Habs were then up 3-1. Cue one of the Leafs' big acquisitions this summer. They got Bogosian on defense, who's going to be a tougher presence on the back end. They got TJ Brody on defense, who's going to be just a better overall defenseman than a lot of the guys they have, both in terms of defense, offense, experience. He's just a really good player. They got Joe Thornton, who's been playing on the top line with Matthews and Marner. And then the other guy they got was Wayne Simmons, who is, he's been in the league around a decade now, maybe. The guy hits, he fights, he doesn't score as much as he used to, but he can still put the puck in the net. He's just that physical kind of guy that they need. And what he did halfway through the second period was spark his team. And what I liked is that it wasn't a staged fight he partook in. It was one of those organic fights that comes, one of the most common situations that sparks a fight is just battling in front of the net. He was getting cross-checked in the back by Sherratt a number of times, so he turned around, gave it back, said, "You want to go?" Sherratt made the mistake of saying yes, and then Simmons proceeded to beat the shit out of him. Only 2 shots it took, a good one right off the hop, and then another uppercut that got him on the chin, and that was pretty much it. So, and my wife's sitting there as usual, "Why are they doing this? Oh." And I say, "You just watch what's going to happen right now." Leafs went out, started skating, got a couple of good chances, and then drew some penalties, and soon enough, the game is 3-3. Nylander on the power play. The Leafs were cycling it around the zone a bit, throwing it around. They all started to collapse low towards the net. Nylander had it on the left side, just crept in, played off a bit of a pass option, and then wired it home himself on Price's glove side. And then not too long after that, on a 5-on-3 advantage, same sort of thing. They're throwing around the zone. Came to Nylander on the left side again. He came down low, and instead of shooting it this time, threw it over to the other side of the net where Tavares wasn't too far off the post and just redirected it past Price. And suddenly, after that fight, we have a 3-3 game. And that's the way it would go into the third period. Third period, early on, a minute in maybe, Anderson scores again. He took the puck hard to the net. Freddie stopped it, but kind of fell back into the net. Puck came loose, and the rebound was buried. So, a bit of a bad luck goal, but that's the way they go sometimes. But the hockey gods equalized it when, halfway through the third period, the Leafs got a bit of luck to go their way this time when the Habs tried to throw it around the end boards in their own zone and hit the ref. I can't remember who got it. Matthews, maybe? No. Tavares? Yeah, maybe Tavares. Threw it up front to another new acquisition, Jimmy Vesey, who then put it home past a sprawling Carey Price. And that's the way regulation would end. There would be no more goals, but the overtime period was insane. And as you know, they go to 3-on-3 in overtime for 5 minutes, and it was just back and forth trading chances. I think the Leafs had the advantage early on. They had most of the possession time, but then it kind of devolved into this back and forth breakaways and stuff. And eventually the Leafs would score on a 2-on-1 that was just beautiful. It was, the Habs had it in the Leafs zone and were looking good, but then Matthews was able to pounce on a loose puck, and he just kind of backhand slapped it at this big long pass to Tavares and Riley, who had started to blow the zone when they saw Matthews get it, and it came right to Tavares. Him and Riley went in on 2-on-1. Tavares did a really good job of getting Price to bite on the fact that he was going to shoot it, but he slipped one over to the other side of the net to Riley at the last minute, who had an easy tap in, and And there we have a 5-4 win, first game of the season in overtime. Too bad the Habs got a point, but the important thing is that the Leafs got 2. The second half of the game after that Simmons fight was a hell of a lot better of a game for the Leafs, hell of a lot better of an effort, hell of a lot better execution-wise. This is what they were lacking last year. This is why they always, have a good enough season to get into the playoffs and be one of the top half seeds in the conference, but then they always get ousted in the first round because they have no physical presence. Simmons demonstrated exactly why they need the types of players they went out and got this summer, because he single-handedly turned that game on its head and allowed the Leafs to get back into it and eventually win it. So good on Dubas for finally realizing that after many failed years of thinking speed and lack of size and lack of physicality is going to win a Stanley Cup. He seems to finally have gotten it, and there's just a demonstration on why he was finally right to make moves like this. So I'm not reading too much into this first game, both in terms of the positives and the negatives, because it's the first game of the season, like I said, with no exhibition games. So it's a mess on both sides. Guys are still getting their legs, getting their timing and stuff. So it'll be once we get 6 to 10 games into the season, when guys are starting to round into shape. That's when I'll really start to measure the Leafs in terms of everything. Once we kind of get fully evolved into this season, sort of thing. So, but for now, it was a bit of a mess last night on both sides in different aspects, but I'll take the win. We'll take the 2 points, and I think the Leafs play Ottawa on Friday next, which isn't going to be another awesome game. So until then, enjoy the rest of your week.